What I have here is a Samsung refrigerator with fridge on top, freezer on the bottom, ice maker in the door, French door. A few months ago, I had the problem that it started making a noise in the back of the refrigerator. I Googled this and found a number of videos on YouTube about how to solve this problem. The fan noise is caused by excessive ice buildup in this area here, behind this panel. And if you Google this, you will find a number of instructional videos on how to go about removing that whole panel here in the back. There are arrows that show you where there's little clips that need to be disengaged after you remove all the shelves, of course, and also the drawers. And then once you remove the shelves and the drawers and you disengage the clips at these, there's 4 locations on either side. 1, 2 up here, and one down here, 1 down there. Once you remove the shelves and you disengage the clips, then it's a matter of there's 3 big screws on the bottom and 1 screw behind this white square. That thing just pops out. You just have to be careful when you do this, because there are wires that need to be that are connected in this left corner, that you either clip those, or you simply tilt this panel back and support it with something underneath so you don't damage those wires. And then you just take a hairdryer and remove the ice buildup with a hairdryer, and you dry everything off and reassemble it. That took care of the noise problem. And in doing my research on that, I also learned that there is a way to prevent the ice buildup by putting the refrigerator into forced defrost mode on a regular basis. You can do that to prevent the problem. And you do that by holding the fridge button and the energy saver button down at the same time for until the panel lights all go off, and then you hit any button on here 4 times until you get to, it'll say FD, forced defrost. And when you do that, it beeps. It'll stay in that mode, in forced defrost. It'll beep on a regular basis. It'll stay in that mode for 30 minutes, and then it will shut off. So it's a good thing to do maybe like once a week, because this is a problem with these Samsung refrigerators. And before you go up to bed, so you don't hear the beeping, and it shuts off by itself anyway, and it prevents ice buildup. So I'm going to show you quickly how to do that here. Hopefully I can do that. You simply hold, like I said, the energy saver button and the fridge button down at the same time. Until all the panel lights go out. And then you touch any button 4 times. The first time it goes into forced freeze mode. We don't want that. Second one is not really sure. Not really sure what that one is either. But the 4th one is what you want. It's forced defrost. And as I mentioned, it will beep. It will keep doing this for 30 minutes, and then it'll shut off and go into normal mode. But if you want to shut it off yourself, you simply reverse the process. You hold those two buttons again at the same time. Oops, I didn't do it long enough. I'll do it again. Okay, it's enforced defrost. Hard to do this with one hand. There we go. Okay, finally worked. Okay, so that turned it off. Now, so after my, I took care of the ice problem. The refrigerator worked fine for about 6 weeks. But then a new problem surfaced. It started freezing the food in the refrigerator compartment. Vegetables, fruits, even pitchers of ice water were freezing. Bottles that I had in there with water were freezing. We did a lot of research on this, tried to figure out what was the cause. I was first pointed to possibly the thermistor in the refrigerator compartment, which senses the temperature in the refrigerator needing replacement, and tried that. Unfortunately, it didn't solve the problem. But this part is behind this panel again in that upper corner. And it's a simple plug in and replace part. And you can get these parts online. And it was like a $18 part. Like I said, that did not solve the problem. Subsequent to that, I was pointed to potentially there's another temperature sensor in the pantry, in the very back, where, and this is a little bit more complicated to disassemble. You have to remove everything like you did before for the back panel, but then you also have to remove the ice maker, which is not as difficult as it seems, but once you remove the drawers, you have to pull the thermistor, the water filter device, you pull it out and then up. There's clips on the bottom that clip it in. Once you disengage it, it is connected in the back, obviously, with hoses, so you can only just move it slightly. And your objective here is to remove this panel to get to the device, the area in the back, which is very hard to see, but you can see it here. It's back there. That's where there's a damper which controls cold air coming to this pantry from the freezer. And there's also another temperature sensor back there. And it's possible that that could fail and cause a temperature issue in the freezer. And that thermistor part looks a lot like the one up above. It's a little bit shorter wire. Again, this is an inexpensive part. You can get it online, and you receive it. Amazon has them, and other places like Appliance Parts Pro, RepairClinic.com, they have them. Appliance Parts Pro also has some very helpful videos on how to do these repairs. The hardest part about this job was removing this panel here, the pantry drawer. And the end, this is fairly easy to do. You literally have to bend this panel. You can see how it's flexing when I put my finger under here. You flex it until this pin here is able to be disengaged. And then you can remove this panel. You can remove this panel after you've removed the ice maker, or filter, I'm sorry, the filter. Then you can remove this by popping it up and disengaging this pin here. And then you can remove this panel, and then you can get to that area in the back, way back there, where the damper and the temperature sensors are located. unfortunately, I went through all of that and it still did not fix the freezing problem. Ultimately, what did fix the freezing problem was I had to call a repair guy in, and he didn't have the parts with him, of course, but he gave me enough hints to figure out what parts to focus on. His conclusion was that the fact that there was ice buildup about 6 weeks prior to the freezing problem indicated to him that something was malfunctioning in the defrost functionality of the refrigerator. There is a heating coil that wraps around the evaporator in the back here behind this panel. And that heating coil comes on, or should come on, when there's excessive ice built up on the evaporator. And his theory was, well, the fact that there was ice buildup indicates to him that either the coil wasn't working or the temperature sensor that kicks it in, or is supposed to kick it in, was malfunctioning. Well, I tested the coil because replacing the coil is fairly complicated. And I didn't want to do that unless we knew that was a problem. And so what I did was I put the refrigerator into forced defrost like I showed you earlier. And with the panel removed, I touched the coil after, well, and I got to tell you, that coil was hot. So if you're going to do that, be careful, because I almost burned my finger doing that. So I would suggest actually turning it off of forced defrost and waiting a few minutes and seeing if it's warm. So my coil was working. So the conclusion was that the temperature sensing device that determines whether or not the coil should come on was probably the problem. And that ended up being the problem. This is the part. Again, you can order it online. It's about $10. Now this part plugs in this corner here, and these two prongs have attached to the evaporator. There's holes back there on the evaporator, and once we did that, the food was fine, and that took care of the problem. I hope this helps somebody, like all the videos I looked at helped me. Thank you very much.